Dear viewers, welcome to today's show, which we are starting for a new series on QS24 TV. Simply in the observation of the last weeks, months, and 2 years, that time is ripe to understand things, so that we don't all think so helplessly to be delivered. These are considerations from my side, which simply considers a situation in our own body so necessary, to give more balance to an immune system, to give more respect and above all more attention and mindfulness. I think we all have to get out of our own comfort zone, but we also have to get out of the sleep of the sleeping beauty sleep and above all out of the question everything is fine and so it may just go on. And therefore I would like to thank you very much for being here today and for your willingness to devote yourself to a problem, which is very important to me, to convey it with great patience, because it is a big topic. But nevertheless, life has shown us in the last 70 years how much we are really narrowing down the questions of the immune system, how little do we put them in the middle of an event, but also of a medical action, how naturally we consider that it always and at any time works for us, but we completely ignore what our own immune system does. And above all what it takes to keep things in balance for us, for our body, every day. It is good that we have a certain vigilance with us humans. It is good that we can observe and recognize things in time. So that we can of course carry out a lot of studies in preventive medicine today, which are very specialized, which goes back to imaging, i.e. a look into the intestine, a look into the X-ray, a look into the brain, a look into the CT scan of the head. All of this is good, but I cannot assess and do not assess the immune system as a whole, how it is in its activity to meet the daily tasks. This is simply not an object in preventive medicine today. And I would also like to explain to you why. The first thing is that the medical interests in general and especially an immune imbalance always come into the hands of a specialist. That means that we always have the specialists at large clinics, who are called when it comes to questions about our defense. We humans, we doctors, we medical students, we have a performance pensum to create in our studies, which makes it necessary for us to pass far more than 100 exam situations. If we do not pass them the first and second time, then we may have the chance again after a long time a third, but then we are out of such a study. That means that immunology in particular is such a difficult to understand, because it is about technical terms, it is about receptors, it is about interleukins, it is about cytokines, it is about interferons, it is about an incredible number of technical terms. Do you know how exhausting it is and how difficult it is to keep it? Because in the course of your studies it tends to be a course in immunology, which we learn to know, but we cannot understand the depth and scope of it at all. And when I prepared this program, I thought of the fact of learning for an exam. And to pass this exam is the ticket for the next round in the training of a medical student. And I will never forget, the first year of my studies, the biology exam. It is actually a subject where my heart is screaming for, and the life within the framework of again in the first year of my studies, to hear and know biological topics and then to be examined, that's completely fine. But for me, the fullness of this first year of my studies, after 4 years of working as an assistant in a hospital, I worked with great pleasure for the nurses. I was not so challenged to learn things professionally, and after 4 years I was not in a position for the fullness at all. That means, the first 2 years I always had water up to my throat, but I always managed the exam. And after the physics exam, it was my way. There I was, there I could, now I can show you how to make an access, now I could live from my experience. After that, the study was a game for me, but the first 2 years were terrible. And because this learning for the exam came to me at that moment, there was a situation. I took this exam, biology, and I was so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed, I did not know any more what he wanted to know from me. And in Germany the worst grade is 5, and then you fail. And I barely reached a 4. And the professor said to me, "You still made it, but I cannot imagine that you get through here until a state exam." And if so, then do me a favor and go to the hygiene, you cannot hurt anyone. That was his advice. I got through there really well afterward. And I think I am today one of the happiest doctors in the world, driven by the idea of understanding life and clearing and solving. But sometimes it is also difficult to overcome hurdles. And I really became aware of this little story, that especially immunology, it was important to pass the exam and then it just goes on. And later you will work in a professional direction, where you have colleagues who has this area of expertise. And that is so important now. And I emphasize that, because the basic immunological, the knowledge that I want to convey, of course to you as listeners, are so crucial in such situations as we have experienced them, to get into a great, deep peace. And to know all this and to know how to behave now, and that you do not just focus everything on an injection or with the great potential of fear here, means that these things are in a great, great, great anxiety for all of us. Or we are overwhelmed with an avalanche. It is important to me that you understand this and that you come out of this fear. Because of our immunity, that our adaptation, our immune system to life, and we are every day and constantly exchanging with life, means that the immune system does its work at every angle of our body. And that's why it's so difficult to assess it. I don't want to say that it's not possible, but it's not easy to put the focus on it with a small angle of view. For this, you need more knowledge and of course other laboratory technical examinations. That's not what a biopsy does, and it doesn't do an X-ray. The development, even today, to know that the immune system has risen incredibly rapidly. And I would like it so much that the specialized fields and the need for specialized experts. We all need each other, we are colleagues. Because everyone has his job in a way to bring people back to the health path. But I would like it so much if there was an expert in integrative immunity, to assess the immune system in the whole complex. Because we are talking about people here, not about anything. And still today, after 70, 80 years, an eczema, an allergy, that's already sufficiently treated by an allergy injection. Or to make me desensitized. Or to treat an atopy, a neurodermatitis, an eczema with cortisone creams. That can't stay that way, because it chronicles itself. The topic is on a different level and is only visible on the skin. Or all food allergens. We are not allowed to take them for granted. It's not the food that an late allergic reaction may trigger after 4 to 70 hours. It is my immune system that says, stop, not that either. What happened there? I have to understand that there are other causes behind it. It's not just skin diseases. It's the chronic nasal mucus inflammation. These are autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune diseases don't say, my immune system is weak. My immune system is misguided. It's not like we're only treating it when it's too late. I don't want to say too late, but when the problem becomes visible, we have to know the possibilities that lead to autoimmunity. It's a complexity of things. But we have to keep an eye on it. We have to keep in mind that the immune system is incredibly stable. Your immune system is weakening. Or your immune system is slowly being misguided. Misguided means that in the end the body can no longer decide whether the attack is necessary. Because that's what it has to take care of. Our body takes care of us every day. It activates so many mechanisms that you should understand. It clarifies everything for you every day, what's going on at its border, what's going on in its blood. It keeps us free from that. And of course things like nutrition, like stress, like my way of life, I'm a person who can let go of the old. Who can let go? Who knows that he only has to face the moment, but doesn't live in the past. And this past lived through, leads to chronic stress in him. These are so important, crucial things, which also influences the activity of our immune system. This is of course the degree of the current balance on a physical level, but also on a psychological level. We can't avoid having to really clarify these questions for people. And what brings a lot of other things out of balance, like medication, an incredible amount of medication has an influence on our immune system. Vaccinations. Toxic stress lead to inflammation in our body. It's called silent inflammation, which in turn, diseases like civilization diseases, blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, diabetes. These are sometimes standard civilization diseases, but they all have something to do with our immune system. And it is my wish that you understand these things better. You shouldn't become an immunologist. Why should it be such a long and tedious process for you, like it is for me? But to understand these things, believe me, will give you an incredible peace of mind. And it will maybe influence you in a positive way, that medicine feels called upon to take this focus for future doctors, but also for the education and further education of doctors, more seriously. So we are, what our immune system, and I want this first broadcast to be only due to the fact that I want to introduce it, before I introduce this bulwark mess in the next broadcasts, and all the things that weaken this bulwark, to then start my life with real recipes, which I want to give you, to know exactly what I have to know now, what I can do, and maybe to go critically through my own life, through my own apartment, and reflect, and not be surprised if maybe these and those things are going on for me, because we don't experience the severe infectious diseases like 150 years ago, but what we experience is a real chronicling. And chronicling, only the one who doesn't know the way can articulate it. And maybe the one who can't access a certain knowledge at the moment, because that was always his gold standard. And that's why it needs a change, and that's why you as a person, who is strongly dependent on it, but also who is demanding this process, it's always like, how should I say it, like when you go shopping, the one who needs it, who decides how much is being produced, if no one needs it, you won't produce it anymore. And that's why I wish that we could shift the whole thing from the point of view, and a bigger point of view, not only you as a person who is affected, but that we also deal with it more medically, that an immune system can experience a severe fire, where it slowly slips away, where it is misled, where it overreacts, but also where it really weakens, and not everyone has a weak immune system, and that's important to judge. So today we are really in a big epidemic in this regard. That's how I want to judge it, because we all don't play this big joker that we have in our hands, and we don't deal with the questions medically. What is the immune system takes competence. And that's why it's so important that we classify diseases, like dementia, for example. Many people tell me, what don't I want to have in old age? Yes, but then please look at these things early, so that I can react early, and get out of my zone and look critically. Where can I actually get a mental vitality in my body? That's diabetes, that's diseases that we have today, also in the context of a chronic chemical syndrome. I've lost my adaptation to smells, taste, this chronic fatigue syndrome. It's unbelievable how many people suffer from it. These are questions of immunity, and without clarifying them, we are not fair enough to these people, to get them back to where they once were, namely healthy. And 40 years lie ahead of them, or maybe sometimes less, but maybe sometimes even more. That means this multifactorial event, what is happening in this world today? We talk a lot, but we should take it seriously, and be aware that we have to take responsibility for 500 million tons of environmental poisons. Be aware that we eat food that has been sprayed 10 times, or maybe I say food, because it's about fruit, it's about vegetables. We are the end consumers, and it does something to us. That means the first step we really have to learn is to recognize what makes us sick. Or 6,000 tons of glyphosate are in use in Germany, and for years the soils have been polluted. And you don't have to be environmentally toxicologically trained, but you have to deal with these questions of detail. And if you sum up the whole sum, I'm born in 1959, we say today that since the 1950s, the pressure of environmental toxicity has grown exponentially on the health of us humans. And you must never forget, and I would like to come to the conclusion somehow slowly, that an increasing external and internal strain is a limited possibility of a body to compensate for these burdens for us, for them, for me. That means a lot of things lead to, regardless of the dosage, to a deglutition, and a lot of things happen slowly, with time, with a higher dosage, which we carry on for years and decades in our bodies. The end of everything is always inflammatory processes that take place, and which today, as chronically silent inflammations, slowly cause a heavy fire in our bodies, which is not so easy to compensate for. Let me finish with the first program, please, with a text by Angelica Wall. She wrote this text for the Corporwelton exhibition, and I think it fits so nicely here, also as an introduction to the next program, which I would like to present to you, the actors of this ballroom. It is called the cycle of life. The human body is a miracle of opposites. It is simple and yet complex. It is burdensome, but also vulnerable. Our body accompanies us for a lifetime. Through it, we experience ourselves and the world. In doing so, our body opens up to us almost infinite possibilities. But our body is not only a divine gift or a natural gift, but also a personal task and the result of our own life. Health is a highly fragile state. Reception, birth, childhood, youth and maturity, up to old age. The only thing that remains is a constant change. The body is a lifelong challenge and a visible mirror of our final hour of life. In this sense, thank you for being here, and I look forward to the next program, which I would like to present to you, the actors of this ballroom. All the best. Thank you.